Hola, soy yo Vicky otra vez. En el video de hoy vamos a practicar algunos verbos alternativos para ampliar tu español. So, do you find you're always using the same verbs? You know, what we're going to look at today are different verbs you can use for verbs that you probably know quite well. But if you want to use a different verb to extend your ampliar, I'm in Spanglish now, if you want to amplify your range of verbs. So they mean the same thing, but it's just a different way of saying them. So it's not only good to widen your scope of verbs that you can use, but also so that you recognise them if somebody else uses them to you, you know, because quite often there are a lot of different ways of saying the same thing. So we're going to look at vamos a mirar 25 verbos alternativos a verbos que a lo mejor conoces ya. So these are alternative verbs to verbs that you probably already know. This is not really a video for beginners. I'm not saying a beginner can't get anything out of this video, but obviously if you don't already know about verbs in Spanish, it'd be difficult to follow probably, unless you've already got a good grounding in grammar generally. And maybe you've done some Spanish verbs. I think as long as you've done a little bit of Spanish and some present tense verbs, you can get something out of this video. But if you're an absolute beginner, it's not really the video for you. Ok, vamos a ver qué verbos podemos usar. We'll see how many maybe you already know as alternatives. So, número 1, el verbo común que la mayoría de personas conozcan es hablar. Hablar, to speak. Most of us know this verb probably. But we can also, did you know that we can also use charlar, which is to chat. Also, actually, we can use practicar, though I think that's a little bit more South American, practicar. But hablar, we can also use charlar, which is more to chat, and practicar. So, and they're both AR verbs, actually. Yeah, regular AR verbs, just like hablar. So if you wanted to say, we were talking yesterday, and you say hablábamos, because we were talking, hablábamos ayer, or you could say charlábamos ayer, or you could say platicábamos ayer. So you've got a nice range there of 3 different verbs. You may, not only for you to use different verbs, but that you may hear. Charlar is very common in Spain, charlar. Y practicar también, but I think anybody wants to correct me on that. I think it's a little bit more South American. Okay, número 2. So, beber, we know is the verb to drink. Now, just as in English, something we don't always say, oh, I drink a coffee. We might say, I have a coffee, or I have a glass of wine. In Spanish, they don't use the verb to have. You never have food or drink in Spanish. You take it. So instead of beber, you can use tomar. Tomo un café. Yeah? A regular AR verb. Tomo un café por la mañana. I have a coffee in the morning. And that leads us also on to, as much as you can also say bebo un café por la mañana. And that leads us on to number 3, número 3 también, comer, which is to eat. And again, just like we do in English, where we might say, I have a sandwich rather than I eat a sandwich. In Spanish, you wouldn't use have, you would use tomar again. Tomo un sándwich todos los días. Yeah, I take a sandwich every day, for example. So, for beber and comer, you can also use tomar. Very common in Spain to use tomar. Okay, número 4, the verb decir. Decir is to say or to tell. And if you say to someone, tell me, you say dime. But do you know that you can also use, for tell, the verb to count, which is contar. And if you think about it, it makes sense because in English we use recount when you recount something and you're telling a story. But I think it's more common in Spain. Contar is muy común, and it's a diphthong in the present tense. So instead of saying dime to someone, tell me, you could say cuéntame, cuéntame. Okay, número 5. Of course, tener is the verb to have. We use it for other things as well in Spanish, as you probably know. If we're talking about if we're hungry or we're tired, we can use tengo hambre, tengo sueño, tengo sed, etc. And of course, we talk about it we use this verb to talk about our age in Spanish. We don't say I am a certain age, we say tengo. But another verb we can use instead of tener for possession is poseer. Poseer, it sounds like poser, it looks like poser, but yeah, poseo. I own una casa, poseo una casa, or poseo un coche, etc. So, but poseer is only what you have in the sense of possessing something, okay? Número 6, número 6, trabajar, you probably all know as to work. Trabajar is a regular AR verb. Most of us know that verb quite soon after starting to learn Spanish. But you can also use a very common verb, which is nothing like trabajar, which is curar. And I'm not very good at rolling my R's. I'll hold my hand up and say that's not something that I find easy, but it's never held me back. But it is a double R, because if it's curar, that's actually to heal or to cure. Curar. I don't know if I'm doing that justice, but if you're any good at rolling your R's, curar. Oh, it nearly happened then. And that is another, like a more informal word to work. And it's a regular AR verb. Vale, número 7, poner. Of course, is to put. You may know that verb when you put something somewhere or put something down. But we can also use colocar, which is more to place something. So just as in English we can use to put or to place, in Spanish you would use poner, perhaps a little bit more to put, whereas if you want to use an alternative, to place something, colocar. And again, an AR verb, so colocó, I place mi ordenador en la mesa. Coloco mi ordenador en la mesa. Now, if you were doing that in the past tense, I placed, the spelling would change because it's a C. You would say coloqué, but the spelling would change to QUE to keep the K sound for the pronunciation in the pre-treatment. Vale, número 8, we have comenzar, which is to start or to begin. And there's 2 other verbs that we could use instead of that. We can use empezar, which you may know. We can also use iniciar. So we've got comenzar, empezar, and iniciar. All verbs, funny enough, all AR verbs that we can use for the verb to start or to begin. And comenzar and empezar are both diphthongs in the present tense. Comienzo, I start, or empiezo, I begin. But iniciar is regular, creo. Okay, vale. Número 9, dar. Dar is the verb to give. But another verb we can use, but only when we're giving something as a present. So it's important to remember that distinction. We wouldn't use this other verb to just like, I don't know, give me the remote for the TV. No, it's to give something as a present, and it's regalar. regalar. And that is when you give somebody something for a present for their birthday or Christmas. Saying he gave me a ring. Me regaló un anillo. So it has to be a present. Número 10. Recomendar, to recommend. That's quite a nice easy verb because it sounds just like recommend, but it is a diphthong in the present tense. So I recommend will be recomiendo. And another option we might use is sugería, and that is more to suggest. Yeah, so but if you were saying it's also a diphthong, I changing to e. Recomiendo ejercicio. I recommend that exercise. Or you might say I can't say it, so I'm having problems saying it. Maybe you better stick it off with recomendar. But it's sugiero ejercicio. Sometimes verbs that have too many vowels in them are a little bit tricky to say. Número 11. So pensar. Pensar is to think. Okay, so this is the verb to think. Now the verb the extra verb, if you like, that I've given you here to amplify your Spanish a little, is opinar. And it's more to what you think about something. It sounds like it, doesn't it? Opinar, to opinion, to give your opinion. ¿Qué opinas? What do you think about that? But it's more, it is, what's your opinion on that? So if you want to use a different verb from pensar, you can use opinar. That's talking about opinion. You can also use creer, to think or believe. So you've got, there's another one there. So you've got pensar, opinar, or creer. 3 verbs you can use to talk about thinking. But they're different. So pensar is to think generally, opinar is to think about something, to have an opinion on something, and creer is to think or believe. Vale, número 13. Mencionar, to mention. Nice, easy verb, sounds like the English. I do like those verbs. But you can also use the verb nombrar, to mention something. Nombrar, it's more to give a name to something, which is suggested in the verb, because of course name is nombre. And so mencionar or nombrar. So nombrar is probably more if you are mentioning people. So nombro mis amigos, and then going on to name them. Número 14, we've got the verb to assure, which is asegurar. Yeah, now that is to assure, and we can also use garantizar. I like this one, garantizar, because it sounds like guarantee. It's an AR verb, ZAR at the end. If you say, I assure you, te aseguro would be using asegurar. Te aseguro, I assure you. Or you could use te garantizo, I guarantee you. So it's the same gist, same meaning, just a different way of saying it. Número 15, comunicar. Again, nice easy verb, to communicate. And we can also use another verb that I think is easy, expresar, to express. So comunicar or expresar, you can use comunico mis saludos, I'm communicating to you my greetings, or expreso mis saludos, I'm expressing my greetings. So yeah, those two go well together. Another way you can use número 16, comunicar, another way of saying comunicar, is to communicate in the sense of transmit, and we can use transmitir. Transmitir. Now, that's one of those verbs, isn't it, that if you were looking for the word transmit, you might say that, but even if you didn't know that it was a verb, because sometimes that works. I would always recommend that. If you're out there trying to talk and you can't think of a verb, and I know it's that old joke about putting the O on the end of everything, but sometimes it works, especially with verbs, funnily enough. I think it works more with verbs than it does with, there are so many more verbs that are similar than nouns, I think. And that goes back to Latin. So it may be a verb that in English we don't use so much, or maybe they don't use so much anymore. But quite often with verbs, if you just conjugate, think of the English, conjugate it. Of course, you can make mistakes. I mean, there are mistakes, and some verbs that mean completely opposite. But it's always worth a try, I think, just to keep the flow going. So yeah, transmit is one of them. If you were looking for that verb in your head and you just thought, oh, I'll just say transmito, you'd be right, so it's always worth a try. Okay, número 17. We've got two verbs that mean more or less the same thing. Both reflexive, these verbs. So again, if you're a bit of a beginner and you don't know what reflexive verbs are, you need to perhaps look in the playlists, etc. If you tap in reflexive verbs into my channels, the tutorials will come up. Apuntarse. Apuntarse is to put your name down for something, to join a gym, join a course, join something like that, apuntarse. And as well as that, something that we can use in the YouTube channel that I hope you'll do at the end of the video, is suscribirse, to subscribe. So apuntarse or suscribirse. Suscribirse can catch you out because there's no B in it. I'm terrible at subscribir, you want to say, but it's not, it's suscribir. So the first B, there is no first B, but they're both reflexive. So if you were saying, I put my name down for, or I enrolled for a course, so you could say me apunté, yeah, or you can say me suscribí, to say I enrolled in the pre-treat tense. Sorry, just need a little swig of water, I'm getting a little bit dry. Tengo sed. Solo agua, no cava. Okay, then número 18, comprender. That's the verbs, or one of the verbs, to understand. I think that's the easier one because it sounds like comprehend. But the more common one that Spanish people do use, I think, is entender, which is a diphthong. So if you're saying I understand, you say entiendo. Or if you're asking someone, do you understand? You say entiendes. Whereas you can use comprender, comprendo, or comprendes, just perhaps not so common for Spanish people to use it, but it's still okay. Número 19, dudar. Dudar is to doubt, when you doubt something. So I doubt the truth. Dudo la verdad. But you can also use this verb, which I like, is questionar. Because of course it sounds like question, but don't forget it's not a Q, it's a CU. In Spanish, the que sound is always CU, not QU. So questionar, questionó la verdad. Okay, número 20. Aquí tenemos tres diferentes verbos y cuáles. Got three verbs here that we could use for more or less the same thing. We've got pasar, we've got ocurrir, and we've got suceder. And all those three verbs we could use for to happen. Yeah? ¿Qué pasa? What's happening? Or ¿qué ocurre? What's happening? Or ¿qué sucede? So those three verbs, pasar, ocurrir, y suceder, all to happen. Now, another way we can use the verb pasar, of course, is to pass. Or when we're talking about where something takes place. So, donde pasa, or let's go into the past tense. ¿Dónde pasó esto? Where did that happen, or where did that take place? And another word we can use for taking place is tener lugar. So we're using the verb tener to, well, we say to take place, they say to have place. So, ¿dónde tuvo lugar esto? Where did that take place? Número 22, terminar, yeah, to finish or to end. That's a nice easy verb because it sounds like the Terminator. But also another easy verb, I think, is finalizar. Yeah, to finalize. Finalizar. So if you're saying, I finished my homework last night, terminé mis deberes anoche, or you can say, finalice mis deberes anoche. Vale, número 23, number 23, repetir, to repeat. And we can also use this verb, which we have a similar verb in English, reiterar. So to reiterate, to repeat, to reiterate, you can use repetir or reiterar. Reiterar, like in English, perhaps a little bit more formal than to repeat. Número 24, confirmar, to confirm. And again, that's quite easy, but we can also use afirmar, to confirm. So let me think of an example. They confirmed the dates. So, confirmaron las fechas. Or you could say, afirmaron las fechas. So, two alternatives there. And el último, número 25. I'm going to there's two possibilities. Dar información, to give information, yeah, or if you were saying to someone, can you give me information? Puedes darme información. Or you can use the verb informar, to give information or to inform, and say, puedes informarme, por favor. So yeah, anything you're asking for information for, you can say, puedes darme información, or puedes informarme. Okay, I hope that's given you some extra verbs to play with. I mean, it's always a good idea to try and write some sentences. Anything you want to sort of write down to practice, you want to send me, you know, I will correct it for you or tell you if it's right or wrong or whatever. And as usual, if there's a particular theme that you would like to see me do on a YouTube video, please let me know that also. If you've enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. That helps with my YouTube algorithms, apparently. It just makes the videos pop up more for people to watch, to increase subscribers, etc. I have over 1,100 subscribers now. Thank you. Muchas gracias para todos que han suscrito. Everyone who subscribed, thank you so much. And if you haven't, and you want to, por favor, suscribirte. And oh, look at that, my phone's ringing just at the time that I'm finishing the video. Momento. Oh, sorry. Dios, no puedo. Don't know. No sé por qué no funcionó, pero bueno. So, sí. So, muchas gracias por mirar. Te veo en el próximo video y que tu Dios vaya contigo. Gracias a Dios.